The stupidity is it's just unreal. So Sony is just about hanging in there purely because of the rights to Spider-Man. And everyone knows that if it wasn't for Marvel Studios, then Sony would have been fucked by now. But this doesn't stop Sony, oh no. They're trying to have another go with the Spider-Man brand and try and create a brand new shared universe completely separate from the MCU. Something that nobody wants. So first of all, we have the Venom spin-off film starring Tom Hardy, which will come out next year. And I know there are plenty of people who want a Venom film, and myself included, but here's something that everyone other than Sony have been questioning about. How the fuck could you do a Venom spin-off film without Spider-Man? Because without Spider-Man, you can't have Venom. But what's worse is the fact that this Venom spin-off film is not tied directly to the MCU Spider-Man, or any other previous interpretation of Spider-Man for that matter. Now originally I thought that the Venom spin-off film will be about the symbiote, and that they're trying to do this sort of alien knockoff, where we have the alien symbiote inside a spaceship just killing everyone one by one. If they were going with that angle, then at least it could kinda work despite it being an alien knockoff. But since we already have Eddie Brock, who is going to be this new Venom, and the fact that Spider-Man is nowhere in this film, just baffles my mind. But believe it or not, this is only the beginning behind Sony's fuckery for the Spider-Man brand. Because after the Venom spin-off film, we're going to have a Black Cat Silver Sable spin-off film, which is titled Silver and Black. Which again is something that nobody's been asking for. And yes, I know that there are fans for Black Cat and Silver Sable, but everyone can agree on one thing, and that's the fact that both Black Cat and Silver Sable are better as side characters. And although Black Cat and Silver Sable don't technically need Spider-Man, these characters actually benefit greatly when Spider-Man is around. Now just like the Venom spin-off film, Silver and Black will not be tied to the MCU by any stretch. What's even more confusing is the fact that Silver and Black will not be connected with the Venom spin-off film either. And it's just, why? Why even bother? Like, if you're gonna make a Spider-Man shared universe, why are they not connected? Why even call it a shared universe to begin with? And if these spin-off films were going to feature Spider-Man, does that mean we're gonna have like two separate Spider-Men on top of the MCU's version? Now this next part is just nothing but pure speculations here, but apparently Silver and Black are going to feature characters who are exclusive to them, and that the MCU cannot touch any of these characters. These rumoured characters include the Scorpion, who has always been a minor villain in the Rogues Gallery, so I don't see why not, I guess. We also have Kraven the Hunter, who is apparently going to be in Silver and Black, and I know a bunch of people really like Kraven the Hunter, but I never really cared less about this character, so do what you want with him. Tombstone is apparently going to be in Silver and Black as well, and honestly Tombstone fits right at home, and considering that we already have the Kingpin in the MCU, I don't see the point of having Tombstone in the MCU, so I'm okay with him being in Silver and Black. Spider-Woman's also apparently going to be in this, which baffles my mind because Spider-Woman has next to nothing in relation to Spider-Man, unless we're talking about the Ultimates version. And Spider-Woman in general is more of an Avenger. However, I do have a feeling that Sony actually wants to make a Spider-Woman film. And of course we have the one character that everyone's pissed about, which is of course Norman Osborn. Which is very understandable because Norman Osborn as well as Oscorp are very tied with Peter Parker. And if the rumours are true and that Marvel Studios can't use any of these characters, then that's very shitty because Norman Osborn is quite possibly the greatest villain in Spider-Man's Rogues Gallery. And plus Norman Osborn would feel right at home in the MCU. Unless Marvel and Sony are going to do this thing where they have two different actors playing the same character in different universes, then I digress. And then another film that Sony is working on is of course the animated Miles Morales spin-off film, which again isn't going to be connected with the MCU by any stretch. But that being said, Miles Morales is probably the one I am least concerned about because Miles Morales can actually work outside of the MCU, and also doesn't technically need Peter Parker in order to make sense. I mean sure, in the comics Peter Parker's death actually does inspire Miles Morales to use his powers for good. However, Miles Morales gets his powers before even Peter Parker dies. So all Sony really needs to do is shake up his origin a little bit and it could still make sense. And on top of all of this, Sony is still keen on making this Sinister Six film, which much like the rest of the spin-off films with the exception of the Miles Morales film, nobody wants. And whether this is still tied to the Amazing Spider-Man series remains to be seen. Now it is a given that Sony only really cares about money and doesn't really give a shit about the Spider-Man brand. Hence why they're milking off it so much, because that's the only brand that's keeping them afloat. But how could they expect anyone to accept this idea if A, it's not even connected to the MCU, B, the fact that they're not going to use Spider-Man in any of them, and C, the fact that they're not even connected whatsoever anyway? Because truth be told, none of this makes any sense. Now there are a few ways in which this could actually work. Best case scenario, tying all these spin-off films to the MCU in some way, shape or form. A bit of a wishful thinking on my end, however if you want anyone to remotely give a shit about your new shared universe, then tying them up with the MCU would make the most amount of sense. Option number 2, tying up all these spin-off films with a previous incarnation of Spider-Man. Either that'll be from the Sam Raimi's trilogy, or whether it's going to be from the Amazing Spider-Man series. I mean, you don't have to make any continuations with either series, but if you're gonna spin off from them, then at the very least you have some sort of establishment of a Spider-Man. Or option number 3, scrap all the spin-off films and instead focus on the alternate versions of Spider-Man and ultimately lead up to one massive crossover film, which is of course Spider-Verse. But knowing Sony, they don't give a shit about what we want, so this isn't going to happen anytime soon. So evidently, Sony's idea for a shared universe is completely flawed. And clear as day, nobody wants this. But the reason why Sony's doing this in the first place is purely for money's sake. And ultimately Sony's going in the worst possible direction with the Spider-Man shared universe. And it's pretty inevitable that Sony will be crashing down all over again. And fingers crossed that Marvel Studios can actually get the full rights to Spider-Man again. So are you even remotely excited for any of the Spider-Man spin-off films? Or do you just want Sony to quit? Comment below and share some thoughts. And as always, thank you guys for watching this video. Please like and subscribe, take care and have a good one.